Hi, this is James. Before we get into today's episode, I want to talk to you briefly about something that might be one of the biggest game changers when it comes to changing your relationship with alcohol, and that's community. I've learned that nobody quits drinking or learns how to drink less in isolation. Sure, willpower helps, education matters, and strategies are important, but connection is what really keeps it going. When you surround yourself with people who get it, people who are walking the same path, facing the same challenges, and celebrating the same wins, everything becomes a lot easier. You feel less alone. You stop thinking it's just me. You get inspired about other people's progress, and you stay accountable when motivation dips. And that's exactly why Steve and I are building something new. It's called the Alcohol-Free Revolution Community. It's a place where you can connect with like-minded people, ask questions, share wins, setbacks, and celebrate all the joys that an alcohol-free lifestyle brings. We're still putting the final touches together, and at the moment we're gauging interest, but our plan is to launch in mid-November. It'll be a Zoom call once a week, and at least until the end of the year, it's going to be completely free. So if you're already starting to get a little bit anxious about Christmas and its tidal wave of booze and expectation, or perhaps you're starting to look ahead to dry January already, why not become one of our founder members? If that sounds interesting and it sounds like something you'd like to be a part of, there's a link in the show notes. All you need to do is go to that link and just send us the word interested. And we'll come back to you in the next couple of weeks with more details when we've got them finalized. Thanks. Enjoy the rest of the show. Welcome back to the Alcohol-Free Revolution podcast. My name's James Lloyd. I'm alcohol-free coach.
My name is Steve Smith, and I'm also an alcohol-free coach.
And it is our mission to really spread the word about how fantastic an alcohol-free lifestyle can be. So if you're sober curious, you've been alcohol-free for 10 years, come join us, celebrate how great it is to be alcohol-free, all the benefits. It's all gains and no losses, and that's what we're here to do. So the pursuit of high quality alcohol free wine has become something of a holy grail for the drinks industry. And I constantly get asked for recommendations from coaching clients for wine. And Steve, I know you're the same. But being entirely honest, it's probably not our area of expertise. But today, we're delighted to be joined by David Hodgson. He's an entrepreneur, founder, and CEO of ZENO Wine, which is a prestigious alcohol-liberated wine brand. Now, David founded Vinolo Ltd over 9 years ago, drawing on his 30 years' experience of working in the wine industry, and this led to the creation of ZENO Wine. It's an alcohol-free enjoyment without compromise. And I'm sure this episode is going to be of interest to many listeners, particularly those who are looking for that elusive, great alcohol-free wine. David, welcome to the Alcohol-Free Revolution podcast.
Hi, Jason. Hi, Steve. It's great to be here.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Fantastic. Well, look, before we dig into talking a bit more about ZENO, perhaps you could share a bit more about your personal journey, David.
Oh, for sure. My journey, I had a career of about 30 years in traditional wine, which is a very enabling environment. And although it's fantastic, had a lot of fun with drinking, I also drank, quite heavily, gave it a nudge more in a binge sense at school, uni, that kind of thing. Fairly normal. But then having a career in it is different because it's your downtime and your leisure as well as your career and your work, and it's extremely hard to avoid drinking excessively when you're in that environment, and you have meetings and lunches and dinners and that kind of stuff. And I got to a stage after that long of wondering whether this is I wanted to live the rest of my life feeling like that. The symptoms I had were just, I was always tired, really anxious, not looking that healthy, even though I was going to the gym and had a good diet and stuff like that. And I was just wondering if that's how I want to live the rest of my life. So that led me to consider taking a break from alcohol, which really it was so serendipitous with the timing, because that's when I started observing quite deeply, and in fact it became the R&D project for ZENO, what's happening in the alcohol-free beverage world. And, I could see that the beers were just doing incredibly well, and some of the botanical distillations
Hmm.
and spirits. And I just thought, where the hell's wine in all of this? And then
Yeah.
there's the light bulb moment. Um, it's I thought as well, because I was tasting everything I could find just to see what the landscape was with them, and there wasn't any wine that I could find. I was adding my own aromatic and distilled um, flavors to see if I can get the flavors and textures better, and I couldn't. And I thought, for anyone like I was going permanently alcohol free,
Hmm.
I'm such a wine fan. I've got a real passion for it. So I was thinking, I don't want to spend the rest of my life without having a great glass of wine again either. So it's a bit selfish, I guess.
For sure.
And so I made myself the project, being having given up alcohol. And interestingly, my co-founder Will, he has also a background in fine wines. He moderates now after suffering a lot of the same things I was going through, being in the trade, just bloated, unhealthy, anxious, all of those feelings. So he moderates now, and it's very important, or it's actually a benefit for the brand that he still enjoys the occasional fine wine, because palate wise it helps us when we're doing our tastings and in the lab with the winery team. It helps us stay more reflective in our styles, as my palate's obviously changed in 6 years since I gave up, and I'm extremely sensitive to alcohol, which I didn't used to be
Mm.
um, either. So we balance each other up that very well there, by getting our styles right for appealing to people who still drink alcohol, because that's our main market. It's these zebra stripings.
Yeah. It's a real buzzword, isn't
Really,
it, these
it's
days?
really a thing.
Yeah.
Could you do me
And
just a very quick favor? Sorry to jump in, David.
yeah,
Could you just explain what that term means? Because I use it a lot with people, and they're like, "What does that mean?" So just for listeners who are not aware of the term zebra striping, could you just explain what it is?
well, it's important. We want to come up with consumer friendly terms for reducing your alcohol consumption overall. And a lot of it has to do with, the terminology has to do with giving up, without, less, zero.
Yeah. Hmm.
And that's not very appealing for consumers. Um, so these new phrases are coming up, and I think after the Club Soda Summit, collectively, we're going to look at other phrases just for the whole category as well, that are really positive and really reflect the positive effect it can have. Zebra
Coming on.
striping is really interesting because it reflects basically alternating alcohol and non-alcoholic drinks, and a
Mm.
lot of people are doing this. The figures are all out there at Club Soda, and it looks very encouraging for alcohol-free drinks segment,
Hmm.
that this is happening. And people, we don't advocate sobriety, although I just happen to be sober. We advocate more of a lifestyle. So that's where our main market, and the main market for alcohol-free wine, is for people who still drink but want to alternate and reduce their overall consumption, improve their overall wellness by alternating, one for one, or just whatever balances them out. I think anybody who embarks on it, the ratio doesn't really matter, as long as they're making the effort and can feel the benefits. But of course, one for one's quite a common thing. Starting with alcohol and tapering off to alcohol free is another one, which is good. But
Mm.
they're all great developments in normalizing alcohol free and making it more acceptable and welcome to consumers. And if you take a look at our Insta, we have a zebra striping reel in our content out there, which is really fun. So that visualizes zebra striping, which I think is important as well. So we don't just
Mm.
talk about it.
I think it
Yeah,
speaks
but
volumes about the quality of the products nowadays, doesn't it? The fact that people are prepared to do that without feeling like they have to drink an alcohol or free
That
alternative because they're driving or because there's no other choice. They actually want to do it because the product's that good.
that's exactly what I say. That there was such a compromise gap when I started that you would go out and you'd see something on a list that was alcohol free and taste it, and it's a real battle to like it. I really wanted
Mm.
to like so many things that ended up just not working out. So I thought the main thing we should do with Zeno is close that gap. So if you went into an on-trade outlet, and there's a traditional side of the page and an alcohol-free side, that whichever side you go to, you're going to still have a really enjoyable experience. And I think it's not just us; it's the whole category has come along in leaps and bounds with experience and with better technology. They're all really helping in the quality. So it's not just sugar-filled, really sweet, gloopy drinks
Mm.
anymore.
Yeah, and I think you highlighted there with, and I've heard the phrase zebra striping before as well, and I think that kind of highlights, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's certainly a lot more popular amongst the younger generation, younger drinkers out there at the moment in terms of. So it just shows that awareness is really out there, and I think, I mean, that's a positive thing, right? Because you just never know where that's going to lead. Because the people's awareness around
It's
alcohol
great
and
to have the awareness, Steve.
yeah,
When we first launched Zeno, which was in December 22, um, we noticed when we were out in the trade and at consumer tastings and just getting it um, started, that the conversation and the narrative around alcohol free was more stigmatizing. It tended the social media and the all media tended to link alcohol free to sobriety, to the
Mm.
clinical effects of drinking too much and mental health, which are all really important. But the great thing that happened, and we noticed tangibly in our second year, was that the conversation was more about lifestyle, about food, about nutrition, um, mental health again, and physical health. But it got a much more positive spin, and this is from people in social media who are influencers, that kind of thing. So it was really helpful, and this is on the back of COVID, where a lot of people questioned their alcohol consumption. So the social media has been great at increasing awareness, and seeing peers and also celebrities and even corporate heavyweights actually advocating giving up drinking or giving it up themselves and saying how many benefits they have from it. So
mm,
that all helps in getting the message across and making it appealing to consumers, because consumers by nature are quite fickle. They don't have a lot of time to think about stuff and look at your website, etc. So that it's all of that with all of the media that is driving consumers. It's a consumer driven market, which is perfect for us.
mm.
Mm. We're really interested to know, coming from 30 years in the wine trade, David, what actually was it that made you want to go alcohol free? Was there, were you an alcoholic? Was there a tipping point for you, or was it what
Interesting
happened?
definition. I think if alcoholic by definition, I believe, is the if if alcohol is having a negative effect on your life,
Mm.
definitely was. So whatever you want to call it, that was my situation. Really negative. Mood wise, I've mentioned before that just the general health and well-being, my uh, although I have a good diet and worked out, I was just probably taking a 50% or more of the benefit of that away every day by drinking as well. And I sort of clocked over after all of those years, clocking into my 50s, and just thought, I don't really want to be like this
Mm.
um, for for the rest of my life, however long that may be.
I've,
So
I've got to
that
say, for
was
people who
that
can't.
was the trigger, and also its behavior. The alcohol, when you have a lot of it, can bring on unsociable or just making you behave not not the way that you would normally, or that sort of agrees with your morals and scruples, I think. And I'm not alone with that one, but it is just such a great thing that I'm very grateful for, that I don't spend every day painting over the cracks and worrying about something I may have done or said, that kind of thing. And then just planning the rest of the week as to when those drinking occasions are going to be. It's really it's really empowering, and it's a great sense of freedom.
So were you working within the alcoholic wine market when you made that decision to go alcohol free?
Yes, I was still representing some brands, and it's quite difficult because I had a lot of fear around it, especially career fear, because I thought, if I give up alcohol, what the hell am I going to do? But then I was looking at the up and coming brands and thinking, well, it looks as though this segment is going to grow pretty well. But we're talking, about 6 to 8 years ago. So there wasn't much around. The last, just 3 years, it's exploded. So back then, I wanted, I thought that I had, all of my skills from the wine trade. If I could work out a way to use that and pivot my career, then I could continue and use all my experience. So it was really scary for me, because I thought uh, I would be moving on from all of that beautiful lifestyle and the brands and the world of wine, into somewhere where, if it wasn't into alcohol-free wine, what else would it be? And when you're in your 50s and you've put a lot into your career, it's that kind of change is really daunting.
Mm.
No, I was going to ask you. You spoke about briefly there about some of the the benefits that you've seen. What do you think some of the myths are about going alcohol free? That because a lot of people feel that, well, I couldn't walk.
Oh gosh,
walk.
and the myths that before I went alcohol free, would say as well. You're just never going to have fun anymore and
Mm,
enjoy yourself and let your hair down, which is a myth. Mind you, you have to be patient, because during that first year, it takes a while to actually really get it. And I'm sure, I've on the back of this, I've done a lot of research into, the neuroscience and the psychology and even the spiritual side of drinking and not drinking as well. And the myth that you'll never have fun again is buried. If you stick to it, nothing good comes without a bit of hard work. But the feel-good hormones, uh,
mm,
Mm.
are very suppressed by alcohol, because your mind and your system's just taking the lazy way out. Give me a drink and I'll feel better. So it's actually negatively affecting all of those hormones, like dopamine, which is the main one.
Mm.
Dopamine's the main one in alcohol that makes people feel good and want to come back. So it takes a while to build up the natural reserves of that. Um, but it does happen. I just, if people are thinking about it and thinking that they won't have fun again, just give it some time and just be really happy with what you're doing by reducing your overall
mm.
alcohol consumption, and then the results will take care of themselves. And you often hear in social circles, in fact, when I started as well, how much you're going to be missing out on if you're not part of the
Mm.
club.
Mm.
And we've all been there. Gosh, peer groups are very strong. Um, but it's important that we convey, what you're gaining. It's not all about losing. Uh,
100%.
and um, and this is also supported by social media, with people saying, "Gosh, I've just been at a rave, or I've been at a festival and didn't drink any alcohol," and they're amazed at just how connected they were with the music. I mean, there are theatre productions and things that I've been to in the past that I actually can't even remember.
Mm.
which
We've all
which
been
is
there.
a sign of a good nightmare.
I know.
So, and I think it it can be a lot of fun when you're younger, but that sort of tapers off. It's the nature of alcohol is that your tolerance of it changes as well, and that's what I really found. I was able to put away quite a lot without showing any effect, which a lot of people and me went before thought that was, bravado. I've got a great system. But when you know more about it, it's not. It means that you're basically have dependency, and your system is sort of highly toxic. So it was a real eye opener.
Yeah, you get a lot of language around that, don't you? Certainly, I can completely relate to what you're saying there. I mean, alcohol was massive fun in my 20s and through my 30s, and potentially just as I scraped into my 40s. But like you say, it starts to wear on you. But it's that language around that. Yeah, you can handle your drinks. That guy's a machine.
Yeah, chest feeding.
He was out last night. And it's that we often look at that language around it, particularly around something like that, but then also the language around when you've had too much as well. We use words like wasted and trashed and as a badge of honor almost, and it's just it's ludicrous when you come outside and you look at it from the outside back in. But
Absolutely. Well, I grew up in Australia as well, so all bets were off, through teens and into uni and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a lot of overindulgence.
you were talking there about going to theater and missing out and not remembering things. I'm going back 30 years now, but I did the whole UK backpacking thing going over to Southeast Asia and Australia. And I think I spent 9 months in Australia and I struggled to remember much of the time I was there, to be honest with you, which is shocking, really. Yeah, I need to go back and absorb it all and absorb it through some alcohol-free eyes, because
that's the thing. You have such a rich experience and being 6 years sober now, there's a whole new dimension to my life that I didn't know existed before. And it's the fact that I've got better mind space, focus, and you know what, resting well is so important, especially when you get to a certain age.
Yeah, it's huge.
And with the studies that are out there now and the evidence-based research being made available is backing this up as well, because otherwise the anecdotal stuff isn't robust enough with consumers. But there's a lot of information out there about exactly what effects they have and what effects really small amounts of alcohol can have on
I think this is where
life
small
and your downtime. Just a couple of glasses and you are really affecting your REM sleep. And there is nothing like feeling well rested. And I just couldn't do that when I was still drinking, because it's not resting properly. So it's, really restorative. And just to be, went marching into day 2 of the No and Low Summit in London yesterday, and reflecting back to my previous life with traditional wines, day 2 at a trade show was usually a lot different.
You'd be a mess.
You'd be so hungover, you may not have even touched your hotel bed. And then you're back on, and you're sort of it's quite another bravado thing, as you mentioned, Steve. But you get back into the trade show in the morning and you have a couple of champagnes or sparkling wines just to get back into the mode.
Yeah.
You don't think that's anything wrong when you're actually doing it, because everyone's doing it. It's justified. But I tell you what, just to feel that good in the morning, there isn't a day or an experience that I've had sober that matches that experience of a bad hangover and the anxiety and everything else that comes with it. So it's bad so far, touch wood. Whatever happens, whether I have a bug or it's really stressful, for whatever reason, nowhere near that hungover feeling, which is just so debilitating.
I can relate to that trade show, and it was something that struck me the other day. I was thinking about this because whilst I don't come from a wine background, I come from a hospitality background. I spent 30 plus years in hospitality, and
I
in the
did
early.
too, actually.
Did you? Oh wow.
Well,
Okay.
not 30 plus, but my first
Yeah.
career was hotel management.
Okay.
So
Like
good on-trade experience as well.
yeah.
Suppose you're going to talk about that now.
Well, to some degree, but it was. I remember years ago. I mean, I came from a cocktail background, and I remember years ago going into a trade show in Earl's Court up in London, and we were coming back. You know, that turned into just 3 days of absolute
Carnage.
carnage. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm now looking back on it. I think we're standing up the next day. We're promoting this spirit. I'm not going to say the spirit, but it was a vodka. We're promoting it. We're mixing cocktails with it. We're telling everybody at this trade how fantastic this product is, and we are hanging off it from the day before. And it's just so I can imagine going to the same thing representing an alcohol-free brand. The level of conversation engagement the next day probably was far more constructive than
Far more constructive.
yeah.
And even looking at the London Wine Fair as well, which has a mixture of all, and Wine Drops, which has just recently been, it's mainly traditional alcoholic wines and drinks, and with some alcohol-free. The mindful drinking section of the London Wine Fair has grown exponentially on the back of Laura and Club Soda's great work.
Mm,
And I feel so great to be on that side of the room rather than where I used to be, talking trade shows again. And look at the traditional wine segment and their stands, and it's like it's new vintages, maybe a new label and stuff like that, but it's all still just alcohol.
yeah.
So it is much more of a, funnily enough, I'm going to use the word buzz, but it's much more of a buzz to be on the mindful drinking stand because
Mm,
there is such a groundswell there of interest.
mm,
One thing I just wanted to go back to, David, that you mentioned earlier there, because I think it's really relevant to a lot of our listeners, is you spoke about how when you're a lot younger, you can deal with alcohol a lot more easily, and then when you start to get to midlife, your view on it starts to change, and you start to question it, and the hangovers become worse, and the physical effects become worse. The reason I kind of wanted to dwell on that is because Steve and I definitely have arrived at the same place at a similar time that you did, and but also a lot of the people that we work with and a lot of listeners to the show around that kind of midlife point where they're starting to question the role of alcohol in our lives. And as you well know, the world around us tells us that we should be drinking, and drinking's great, and we start to look at ourselves and think, why is it just me? Why am I starting to get this anxiety, and why are my hangovers so much worse? But want to try and convey to people how incredibly common that life experience is. That sometimes I refer to it as like a middle essence, so like an adolescence, but in midlife, where things start to change and you start to think about things just aren't right, things are different, things are changing. Is it just me? And yeah, I think it's so important to get across to people that it's not, that it's really common in midlife.
It's
We've all
really
three of us have been
common.
through that, right? And we've come out of it the other end. We've walked away from
mm,
It's
booze,
really common,
and it's
James.
an
And
amazing.
yeah, a lot of people I've spoken with and associated with would agree that they are suffering from those symptoms overall, and then some may not just directly link it to alcohol consumption, but most of the time, lifestyle influences like not going out for those massive nights and all-nighters and stuff like that, which I did with alcohol, which I used to think I really enjoyed and often did really enjoy those big events, but it's definitely an age, maturity, just different um, uh, way of thinking and wanting to feel better. It's it's incredible. It's quite complicated, and there is that as you mentioned, that long-term habit and the association with the only way you can get pleasure is by drinking. that
mm,
that
You're
is
numbing pleasure, aren't you? You're basically
ingrained
numbing
in
it.
people's like neural pathways, but the great thing is looking at research again, that there's this neuroplasticity that they talk about now, and being able to look at these effects on MRIs, etc. It actually makes it really robust, that you can actually see what happens when somebody has a lifetime of drinking too much.
Mm.
So um, it's changing thinking. It's being part of a group like Club Soda, and Club Soda actually started as a Facebook group for people who were sober curious, and I took advantage of that as well. So
Did
my
you?
relationship with them and with Laura goes back before the Club Soda that you see now, because I was on their Facebook group, connecting with people, and that is such a huge thing for people who are embarking on drinking less alcohol or going alcohol free. Being able to talk about it with people is really important, because there is, as you mentioned, there's a lot of denial and fear about saying, you know what, this stress I'm going through, or just this general feeling of unease and and lack of focus, could be down to alcohol. It's very hard for somebody who drinks to admit that.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah,
so
community is
with
huge.
the help, people are showing actions speak louder than words, and rather than the trade and the industry and World Health Organization, etc., pointing the finger at people, as human beings, we don't like that. So we need, what we do now is work more on attraction than promotion of the benefits. And this is where groups and organizations and social media groups come in as well, because it's a really positive message that people who are doing it, like the three of us and others at various levels of along the way of alcohol intake, or moving on from alcohol at all. They're all there, and that's the story.
Mm.
People find that their stories are similar, even though you don't admit it when you're physically with people and out and about. On these forums, people tend to be a lot more open and honest, so that they can air any of their fears and find their club, their set of people who are going through exactly the same experience as they are, and they're the kind of people that they normally associate with, so as peers. So that's very, very important.
Mhm. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, I mean, it would be amiss of me if I didn't just do a quick plug on what you've just said there, David, because we completely agree with you. Community is hugely powerful, and we're actually launching the Alcohol-Free Revolution community in November to get people together who are sober curious, people like yourself
Mm.
and me and Steve, who've been doing it for a lot longer, and really, helping people explore and discover what an alcohol-free lifestyle could be like for them.
Great
And
idea.
it might not necessarily be going alcohol-free. It might be taking a break for a bit, try it out, see if you like it. Alcohol's still going to be there when you get back if you decide it's not for you. But
Sure.
as I think, as we mentioned off air at the beginning, no one ever says going alcohol-free is rubbish. Everyone says it's bloody
I haven't
amazing.
heard it, and I certainly don't feel it.
Nope. So yeah. So if you're interested in joining the Alcohol Free Revolution community, like I say, we're going to be starting in November. You'll find a link in the show notes where you can just ping us an email saying interested, and if you are interested, we'll get some details over to you in the next kind of couple of weeks. But yeah, come join us. Have a jump on a Zoom call with me and Steve, and we'll
Yeah, you
waffle on for an hour.
just drop us an email. It's info at thealcoholfreerevolution.co.uk. Just drop us a message and just say interested, and we will be back in touch with you very quickly.
I'll be
Brilliant.
joining.
Good man.
Perfect.
We would
Awesome.
love to have you on, David. That would be fantastic. Yeah, I think the more people can, who coming from an alcohol-free background, who can just talk about how great it is, right? It's
Sure, and show our products. Like the last 2 days was just so encouraging, with the quality of alcohol-free drinks that's out there now. It's not all laden with sugar, so you can get the benefits of not drinking alcohol, but then you have the cost of putting on weight because of the increased sugar and eating.
yeah, definitely.
Mm. Mm.
So like ZENO, actually, we're low sugar content now, and we've worked on ratcheting that down the more experience we get. And that's where we are. So it's double pronged. You're getting the benefits of not drinking alcohol, plus it's really helps you nutritionally and diet wise by not containing all of those carbs and uh, and sugars.
I don't know
Mm.
if it was the same for you, David, but I think one of the things that I think is quite down the list for people when it comes to going alcohol free is the amount of weight you lose, like effortlessly. I don't know if that was your experience, but I lost nearly 20 pounds in a few months by doing literally nothing other than stopping drinking alcohol.
Oh, for sure, it's
It's
hugely
insane.
calorific, and because alcohol is very calorific in itself, and if you add
Mm,
the whatever sugar, if it's residual or added to the products, it can really add up. In fact, with ZENO wines, we're 15 and a half kilocalories per 175 ml glass, and that is about an eighth of the overall you'd find with traditional wines. So
wow.
that's a fantastic statistic. So it really helps people on wellness and weight reduction journeys as well as
Mm.
all the mental stuff. So there's there are really no negatives, to be honest.
No.
No, I'm the same. The weight literally fell off me then when I stopped drinking. And I was a heavy beer drinker. I loved my wine. I know James wasn't such a wine background, but I loved my wine as well. But it's the volume as well when it comes to beer, right? It's that bloatedness from just whenever would you go out and drink 8 pints of another drink, or it's just
For
ludicrous when we actually
sure,
think
yeah,
about it.
going
But
to the loo a lot.
yeah, exactly. So I'm really intrigued to hear, David. Just tell us a little bit more about ZENO, and I know you've been kind of alluding to it through the conversation, but yeah, I'd love to hear a bit more.
Sure. Well, it's my main incentive. Well, one of my main incentives for staying sober, actually, because it's such a rewarding thing. Our timing was good. Zeno's starting to step into its stride as a brand now, one of the top quality alcohol-free wine brands. So, which is changing that narrative as well. So many consumers think that alcohol free is not for them because it tastes like sweet grape juice, and we're really out to counter that belief. And uh, every one of our consumers we've approached at events, we do stealth tasting, so we walk around the crowd and see people with empty glasses and stuff like that,
Love that.
and say, would you like to try an alcohol-free wine? And a lot of them will go, well, it's not really for me. And I just go, wait, and pour them a taste, and always they come and taste the rest of the range, just saying, no, is that really alcohol free? And that's exactly where we wanted to be with our styles. We gave ourselves a very high bar set with quality because of that bad experience initially with the wines, especially that were out there, and the fact that our credentials, so our research and development team had about 100 years of wine experience, fine wine experience, behind them when we started. And we had a master of wine who's also a qualified chemist and enologist as well, which really helped us production
Mm.
wise. And we found a partner winery to work with, which is terrific because we can continue our R&D with the one vineyard and winery partner, and that's not often the way in alcohol-free wines. We're a true estate grown, like, organic estate in Spain, grown alcohol-free wine brand, and um, the Zeno as a brand actually came to me in a COVID lockdown. I'd not long given up drinking when we went into lockdown. And I just thought, oh my God, how am I going to cope with that? And that's when, Boris Johnson was saying, oh, I was shocked. And I said to my partner, oh my God, he said it could be a month. And, the rest is history. And I was panicking about how I'm going to get through, even a month without having alcohol to sort of just to ease the tension in inverted commas, and help me not have that COVID anxiety and fear. So I became very interested in philosophy because, as a lot of people did during that time. So I was researching it, and Zeno popped up, and he happens to be an ancient Greek philosopher who was founder of Stoicism, really, and he was actually the first person, the founder of mindful living,
Okay.
through these virtues that he had, that he created, and the first one's moderation. Then we have wisdom, courage, and justice. And I was looking at it going, gosh, there's a brand here for what we're doing. It's almost a bit woo-woo because I couldn't believe the luck that it just came while I was researching it. And then I jumped on the IPO website to see if it was available for the classes, and it was. And it's just been such a wonderful story to tell. It's quite philosophical.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
But we keep it simple. The symbols on the bottle reflect the four virtues, so visually it's easy to understand without going into screeds of uh, of research and philosophy.
Fantastic. When you, just out of interest, when you're producing the wine, is the alcohol removed afterwards? Is it
Yes,
you describe it as liberated, right?
we vinify just like traditional alcoholic wines are vinified, and the winery, our partner winery, makes those as well. And we get the base wines, and we gently remove the alcohol. Our winery is in central Spain, and another thing that's so fortunate is that the dealcoholization operation is nearby. It's only an hour away, so we're not moving the base wines around very much. And all of the teams know each other anyway because they're in the same region. So
Mm.
we found the collaboration amazing for doing what we needed to do. The dealcoholization operation let us go all through their technology and through the way they do things, so we could see how we could, through that process, be very gentle with the wines and get a better output. So yes, the wines are made and vinified, fermented and vinified like traditional wines. Then this extra step, using really incredible technology, and this is improving all the time with the growth of demand. So it keeps getting better and better. Our the ZENO wines we have now are quite different to how we started, because we're using what's called spinning cone technology back then, and now we're working with the latest. It's called GOLO, um, high vacuum, low temperature distillation, and it's just one single pass. It's really gentle. The a lot of people say, well, doesn't dealcoholization take a lot of the character away? Well, that's with the older style spinning cone, which I would say most of the trade is still using. So we've had the opportunity to use this technology and just get such a better product. Because when the wines come out of dealcoholization, initially we had to do quite a bit of work on rebalancing them,
Mm.
and but with the latest technology, we don't. We You could bottle them straight out of the dealcoholization these days, but we give them a bit of balancing because we want to get our Zeno styles.
Cool.
But yes, it's an added process, but um, it's a lot less intervention than it used to be, and that's very important for us because we we want to be as true to wine as we possibly can, and um, uh, that also reflects on our master of wine, who was on our initial research and development teams, because they will not compromise, and that
Mm.
kept us not going down that road of additives or different techniques. So we stayed very true to wine. But the only downside to that was what we assumed would be a 1 to 2 year R&D project became over 3 because it was just so difficult.
I'm sure there's a, you mentioned a technique there, so you might not be able to share everything, but a few weeks ago we had Denise Hamilton Mace on the podcast, and she talked about
Yeah.
the fact the
It's great.
when we're changing a beer, we're changing maybe 4 or 5% of the drink, and that's why they manage to get it so close a lot of the time. And then obviously when you're in a wine, you're anything from sort of 12 to 14% of the drink is then changing. You alluded there to a process you use. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that works? How do you de-alcoholize a wine?
It's actually quite simple, but the technology has to be very clever and well designed. And basically, the bulk wine goes in to the system, and it gets warmed slightly. So because the alcohol starts to lift off when it gets to a certain temperature. Um, the older spinning cone style used to have to take a higher temperature to lift it off, and it was a more mechanical process. But with Golo, we're really gentle. We just move the temperature up slightly, and it's because of this intense vacuum that also drives the alcohol out. So we capture the aromatics and flavor compounds in the alcohol that's removed, and then it's an important part of our styles. You're allowed up to 0.5 to be alcohol free because it's ripe fruit, bananas,
Mm.
baked
Yeah.
items, and fermented food products and fruit juices can often have more. That's an
Yeah.
important thing to convey as well. So we factor a tiny amount of that alcohol back in because you're allowed 0.5, but we average out at about 0.3 at the moment. And that's enough with those concentrated, we call it the essence. It's a concentrated aromatics and flavor compounds that came in the wine, and we marry that back in to get back to the style we want. And that's just leaving the alcohol behind.
Mm.
It's
Uh,
fascinating. One thing I'd like to understand a little bit more about, there is another thing actually Denise mentioned a few weeks ago when she spoke was about how
she was there the last 2 days.
yeah, she's awesome, isn't she?
Doing
If
a
anyone wants to
great
go,
job.
yeah, she really is a real trailblazer when it comes to
Yeah.
alcohol-free alternatives. If anyone wants to listen to that episode, I think it's number 14. It's from about a month ago. But one of the things that we spoke about on that pod was, how the alcohol-free wine industry is obviously still very much in its infancy compared to alcohol-free beers that are much kind of further along down the track. What's your kind of take on that in terms of, because obviously alcohol, there seems to be a wider understanding, that alcohol-free beer has come a long way and there's some great alternatives, and in terms of the wider public, people seem to recognize that there has been a really big shift and the product's improved so dramatically. But when I just speak to people in the street who aren't kind of close to the alcohol-free bubble that we are, there is this kind of sense that yeah, wine's not really very good though, is it? Beer's great, wine's not. What do you say to that? What's your take on all that?
You're absolutely bang on, James, and that's why it's important for us to get out there and get sips to lips and just show people how different it is now. Because like my first experience with alcohol free, I wouldn't have been returning to it either,
Mm,
because of just that sugar and out of balance and off characters that I found in the wines. And I guess sadly, there are still a number of those very commercial ones that are just driven by sugar to fill in the gaps on the palate that are still available. So as long as people are tasting those and not realizing that there's a lot better out there now, then we've got a big job to do with showing people that this whole thing's changed. And there are some producers out there that are really putting a lot of love and effort into it and investment in research and development to make them, I guess it's more traditional wine like, but then that's an interesting point too, because as we progress, and the segment progresses, alcohol-free drinks are now becoming in sort of a category of their own, which is great. So in our first year, we were more focused on emulating certain traditional wine styles, and now we are sort of augmenting that and using some of those cues, but actually there's a whole lot more we can do because we don't have alcohol there that's damaging or masking, really subtle, nuanced, aromatic and flavor compounds. So, I mean, we know that, as you said, but conveying that is the challenge.
But I
But
think as well,
sorry.
I was just going to. I think one of the things that people also have a perception of is they'll try maybe one or two, and they'll get a couple of bad ones. And this is the same for wine and beer. And they'll be like, "That's terrible," And I'll be honest. I keep a note on my phone of all the alcohol-free beers that I try, and I've probably had about 100, and I score them all 1 to 5. So because you're never quite sure of the ones that you've tried before. So whenever I try a new one, I score it 1 to 5, and of those 100, I've probably got about 12 that I consider 5 star, and they're in my fridge week in week out. And there's probably about another 15 that I'd give 4 stars to, and then kind of 3, 2, 1. So I'd say that of all the beers I've tried, at least half of them, probably 2/3 of them, I never want to try again. But the ones that so you've kind of got to go through. You've got to kind of weed out the ones that you like, and it's and that's not to say that 12 of them are amazing and the rest are rubbish. That's to my particular palate and my taste, because
Yeah,
the
sure.
one thing I
It's
see
very
all the
subjective.
time is that people will say, "Oh, I really love, I don't know, Moretti," for argument's sake. I couldn't stand Moretti, or vice versa. It might be that people don't like, Lucky Saint, but I love it. There are a few
So
standout
do I. They do a
products.
great job.
Yeah,
Mm.
there's a few that stand out, like the Guinnesses and the Lucky Saints of this world. But some of the more um, the alcohol-free drinks that are coming from established brands like the Peronis and the Morettis and all this kind of thing, and Corona and things like that. I think they're a real mixed bag. But I think the problem is that people have what they recognize as an alcohol-free alternative, and then you know, they might not like it, so they associate all alcohol-free drinks as being crap because they happen to have tried one that doesn't suit their palate. And it really
For
is
sure.
about go out and try as many as you can and find the ones that you like, because they are 100% out there, whether that's wine, beer, or botanicals or whatever else is. You've got to go and try quite a lot of them to find the ones that suit you.
Sure. And I would say to people who are embarking on it just to keep trying because they will
Mm.
find something that really suits them.
Definitely.
Mm.
Not just try one category, one wine or one beer and decide they don't like it. Because the brands all have their own house styles. Like you, I've got half a dozen of my favorite alcohol-free beers as well, and it's getting so much more exciting with the little craft producers doing really good stuff as well. And brewing and spirits technically is a bit simpler than wine. Wines are extremely complicated and sophisticated beast to work with, and hence that's why it's taken longer for the whole wine segment to catch up. But if you look at the as well as media and PR and the drinks writers, etc., supporting alcohol free as well, which we've seen a lot of in the last 2 days at the summit. It's also the trade that can help by making them available and also by putting on tasting events themselves, and that's on trade and retail. All I'd like to see is more space given to alcohol free because we've got so much consumer interest and so much
Mm.
evidence in the benefits of doing it, and there are so many really good products out there that aren't just laden with sugar. That I think it deserves more retail shelf space, maybe at the cost of a bit of the alcoholic products because
I couldn't agree
they're
more.
they're in decline, and you can have a really interesting journey. Going into club soda is a fantastic thing because they make alcohol-free cocktails.
Mm.
There's a whole range of alcohol-free drinks in there, and some of the cocktails, honestly, for anybody who's even a big drinker who doesn't think that they could enjoy the flavor and texture of alcohol free should go in there because you can just taste. You're not buying a whole bottle or anything like that. You can taste your way along various cocktails, even that some of the most sophisticated, fulfilling, really interesting on the palate cocktails they have made for me in a club soda. So it's a real eye opener.
They're amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, so they really help as well, and they put out, as well as the brands do, various um, cocktails, ways of drinking alcohol-free drinks, also. So that really helps. And then we moved to the on-trade, which has been a little slower than we would have liked, because it's such a good channel for people to sample in. If you can have a ZENO wine by the glass, then you can taste it without outlaying too much. Because people, it's especially if you talk about spirits, it's quite a big investment to buy a bottle of alcohol-free spirits just to try it. So we find the entrees great for educating and sampling. And in fact, we are working with Fuller's Pub Group with ZENO still wines at the moment, going through their estate, making them available. Number one, getting the staff, the employees and the front of house guys really familiar with it, and convincing them that alcohol-free is not the dusty bottle of beer behind the bar at the bottom. It's something that you can really lead with. And so that message is getting through, and that filters across to consumers as well. And we just keep working away at tasting and education and showing people that it's really a completely different thing than it was 3 years ago, and it's evolving at a pace as well.
Mm.
I wonder if there's an opportunity. You mentioned there about shelf space, in the grocers and things. I know that you're in Waitrose, which is fantastic. I don't You don't necessarily have to make any comment on what I'm about to say, but I have a bit of a bugbear with Waitrose because they regularly run a promotion which is buy 6 bottles of wine, save 25%. And I think that is completely and totally irresponsible to be encouraging people to buy 6 bottles of wine. And you see, people are, in midlife clanking along, with a full cart just purely of wine. I'm thinking, Jesus Christ. But
Because
going back to what we're talking
starving.
about with zebra striping, why are we not seeing alcohol-free brands in those promotions? Why are we not encouraging people to zebra stripe? Is that a conversation that ever gets had? Or is it just a closed shop and it's alcohol only?
I think it's generally with retail and trade, there somebody wants somebody else to do it first to make sure it's it's worthwhile um, proceeding with, and just because of the variances in quality from the early days, I think there was a lot of skepticism in the trade channels, retail and with the on trade, uh, and it's just so ingrained to want to get better value for what you're drinking if you're an alcoholic drinker. So those promotions are historic. They've just been going for years and years. And we do see some promotions. In fact, you can add ZENO to the 1, 3, and 6 deal and Waitrose, so that they haven't excluded alcohol free from theirs. But there can be so much more as people get the confidence, and as consumers are asking questions now when they're in store, which is great because that gets the management to reconsider it and see what more they can do, whether it's tastings or promotions. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that and a lot more collaborations with alcohol-free wine brands and other complementary products like food products, etc., even down to lifestyle.
Mhm.
Is there anything in terms of you mentioned the Xeno range there, David? Could you just talk us through the range?
Yes, we started with 3 styles: white rosé and white red and a sparkling, which are the more popular styles that are out there with traditional wines. Now we have 5 because we've added the 2 pink. Oh, I don't have one here, but here's an example of the white one. So that's our label there with our virtues on symbolically on them. We added the pink styles last year, a still rosé and a sparkling rosé, just because of the popularity of them
Yeah.
and the fact that working with our team in Spain, we worked on some varietals that work so well with dealcoholization. So we now have 5 we're actually working on a very exciting project that we should be bottling in the next month. Next level, we have a barrel-aged Tempranillo that's really gastronomic focused. It's quite layered and sophisticated. I haven't seen any others in the market of this caliber yet. I mean, we have to get it in the bottle yet, but what we've got on the barrel is looking amazing. So we're going to take it up a notch. The wines we have do a fantastic job for everyday consumers and broader appeal. But the virtues, it's called, so we're linking into the philosophy again. The next level is going to be exactly next level. It's really sophisticated styles, restaurant, white tableclothy, or just made to go with food, because we are low sugar and we've got the balance and textures to really be very food friendly. And we will also release in due course a barrel fermented white and a really classy sparkling to go with that, using secondary fermentation. So it's really exciting, because as we get more experience, we can go that next step. And this, sky's the limit. We'll just keep doing it and innovating and getting more sophistication as long as we can.
Can't wait to try them. Can't wait to
Yeah,
try
yeah,
them.
for sure.
Packaging wise, we're making them more available too, because we've just released our ZENO Bambinos,
You've got cans. Sorry, for anyone,
sparkling cans.
we're audio only,
Right.
but David's holding up a couple of cans that look fantastic.
Yeah, they're terrific, and of course you've got sustainability and ease of use. I do quite a lot of boating on the Thames during summer, and it's so handy to have cans rather than
Yeah.
lugging bottles around all the
Yeah.
time. So it's ease of use is amazing, and we actually did these single serve pouches
Right.
recently for Glastonbury and for the Silverstone Grand Prix. So it's making it easier, making it really appealing, especially to younger audiences. And with the single serves, quite portable, and making them available through different channels. We don't have to be with retailers or outlets that just sell alcohol. We can explore so many new channels that aren't traditional. And there's also the event space, which needs to move forward into this as well. You've got corporations that are mandating their events that they have really good alcohol-free options. The events segment is a bit slower to come on, but some of the better events companies are actually factoring it in now and adding, because it's just the range of products, alcohol-free drinks is so good. So the events segment will evolve as well with more
Definitely.
products, but it's making it easy to access, appealing. You might prefer to have a pouch and you can take it with you. The cans, and also we've got the sustainability factor there as well. So it doesn't have to be a bottle; it can be single serve, or a can, whichever way you want. And that's important for us as well, as we move people across from traditional wine segment, and also bring on new consumers who may not have even been that familiar with wine before.
Definitely. So
Amazing.
where can people find ZENO?
Well, as you mentioned, James, ZENO is the 3 white, red, and sparkling NV non-vintage are available in selected Waitrose stores. Best thing is to search for it or ask in store if it's not there. But we're really fortunate to have Waitrose as a showcase for us, as we, and as the category works on getting more visibility to consumers. We're also with Amethyst, which is a wonderful chain of fine wine stores, and the Alcohol-Free Company, if you're looking online, Wise Bartender, who's very popular for alcohol-free, Greensmiths at Waterloo, where of course we're in Fuller's Pubs, as I mentioned, and some other smaller pub groups too, which are coming up now, which is really exciting. So we're doing lots of work in the on-trade to get that sampling and occasion experiences as well. The very interestingly, in the on trade, we were also on the no and low drinks selection of the Ritz restaurant, as in
Blimey.
Ritz Hotel, #1 restaurant in the UK.
Check you out.
We're so proud of that, and long may that continue. It's such a showcase listing, and it just shows where the
Definitely.
stars are heading. And if anybody is nervous or skeptical about quality of alcohol free, the fact that they've got it on their list. Also, Cafe Murano, which is Angela Hartnett's venture. So we're focusing and growing in the on trade, and they're taking more notice of it. And we're even seeing the evolution of whole pages on wine lists that are dedicated to alcohol free, because you can have wines from Spain like us, or they're a French style, so you can reflect a traditional list now with alcohol free, and as I mentioned before, it's going to be just as satisfying.
Brilliant. It's definitely going there, isn't it? It's definitely moving that way, and it's great to see.
Yeah,
really
and
encouraging to see.
the summit the last couple of days just really reinforced that. And there was a big mention, one of the buzzwords was normalizing alcohol free, and that's just such a good thing, so people are feeling confident about being able to order alcohol free or drink alcohol free, no matter what the occasion, and be a bit more robust against that peer group pressure that might be saying, oh, look, just have one, that kind of thing. I certainly went through that when I gave up drinking. Just have one. I think
You just don't get it, do you?
yes, and the funny thing with people is that it's human nature that they want to protect their alcohol consumption, and there might be denial about exactly how much they're drinking, but they can feel very threatened in a social situation if somebody's not drinking. And this is just something that will change over time, but making them available, really appealing, looking the same. The ritual is really important when you're out having a drink. So you can have a glass of ZENO sparkling, and nobody will even know that you're drinking alcohol free if that's a concern. So you can come into it and not be have your friends and colleagues pointing the finger at you because you're not part of the drinking club. And that's another important thing about the ZENO label. We refer to it as, we call it alcohol-liberated, keeping it a positive sense. A lot of brands put alcohol-free and big zeros all over it. I find that quite stigmatizing. So you can walk in with a bottle of ZENO, put it on a table at a dinner party, and it's not screaming alcohol-free. So it's making people really comfortable, because embarking on this journey can be a little alienating for some people for many reasons. So if we make it as friendly as we can for them, that certainly helps, as well as the quality.
Cool. Amazing. I think I certainly could talk about alcohol-free wine for a lot longer. And it's been really interesting to hear how much we're striving in that direction, and it's been long sought after, and it's so encouraging to hear that it's moving in that way. And David, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us today. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners have too.
It's my pleasure, and you guys are doing a great job as well. And I'll look forward to being part of your community also. And just my message to people who are sober curious is to you only have something to gain if you try it out. You're not losing anything. It's not about what you're losing. You gain so much. And anybody who wants to try some ZENO, give me a call, or
I'll be on the phone straight after this.
We can carry on the conversation as well.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
a really exciting space.
For sure.
Thanks so much, David.
Well, you heard it here first, everyone. David's going to be part of our community.
I don't know what I've
got
myself into.
And everybody that's listening out there, just a little nudge and a reminder that if you're enjoying what we're doing here on the Alcohol-Free Revolution, please do drop us a 5-star review. It really helps us shift our way up the listings. I think a couple of James's friends that he was going to scream at a couple of weeks ago have now managed to get on and do that, which is great to hear. So
It turns out they've done it all along. Nice and checked.
Well, I'll do likewise
go, there you go.
with my
Oh,
team
legend.
as well. And it is, bring on the revolution, because
Hooray.
Exactly, David. It's been lovely catching up, and thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank
and
you,
sharing
David.
ZENO with us. Thank you. Cheers.
All the best, guys.
Cheers. Take care. Bye bye.